Hello, viewers. Welcome to the show. This is Sydney Winston, and you are watching the Sydney Winston channel. The purpose of this broadcast today is to bring both Mrs. Parker and Patrick Thacker, who you may know better as all of Secular Lobster, Grampy Lobster, Psycho Grampy Lobster, Psycho Grampy, Grampy Mac Lobster. His name is Patrick Thacker, and I'm gonna call him Patrick Thacker because with so many aliases, he can't be serious. So, what is my motivation for this particular broadcast? Well, I'll tell you what it is. There was a broadcast where I was watching Mrs. Parker give an interview to Patrick Thacker. And I had, prior to the interview, I'd made the claim that Patrick Thacker is a psychopath. And as when I made that claim, like everybody in the chat, everybody in the side chat, everybody jumped on me. Oh yeah, how can you make such a claim? Prove. Where's your evidence? Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Where's your proof? At the same time, in that same conversation, where Patrick Thacker was talking about Sydney Winston, that's me, Patrick Thacker, he called me a racist and an anti-Semite. Now, Mrs. Parker didn't flinch when Patrick Thacker called me a racist and an anti-Semite. She didn't flinch. She didn't ask for receipts. She just sat very quietly and smugly looking at Patrick Thacker with loving eyes because Patrick Thacker knows everything. Well, of these two, between Mrs. Parker and Patrick Thacker, I think Mrs. Parker is going to learn something today. Patrick Thacker is too damn fucking thick. He'll never learn anything. He's ignorant and he's a fool. So what I'm going to do today is go through South African news that I have received over the last 2 months. So it's through June and July. I'm going to show you this right here, just to bring it in as a teaser. And as soon as I can get this thing going like that. There we go. So now I'm going to start with the news.
To me. Hello again. Last evening, the breaking news on our TV was that Arthur Fraser, the former spy boss, had laid criminal charges against President Cyril Ramaphosa. The charges emanate from the theft of millions of US dollars, in excess of $4 million, concealed within the premises of the president's Fela farm in Waterberg, Limpopo, by criminals who were colluding with his domestic worker. Fraser said the president concealed the crime from the SA Police Service and or SA Revenue Service, SARS, and thereafter paid the culprits for their silence. He says he has evidence of Ramaphosa's connivance in the matter. I would normally say watch this space. But I will be away for a few weeks. I am going to Sydney to visit my family there. So there won't be any newsletters for the next few weeks. On Friday, the appeal court threw out accused no one's attempt to have Billy Downer removed as a prosecutor in the long-awaited arms deal case, which goes back all the way to 2005. The Zuma Stalingrad has been ongoing and is probably unique in its attempt to delay justice. There is still one final throw of the dice that Zuma and his lawyers can have a crack at, and that is an appeal to the Constitutional Court. But they had better act quickly if that is what they want to do. The trial date has been set for early August and Zuma has been warned to be present. How wonderful it will be to see Zuma in the dock. Will he answer any questions though? Of course everyone knows about the stack of evidence against him. Shobe Sheikh received a 15-year jail sentence for bribing Zuma, and that's not all. Thales, the French arms co-charged in this case with Zuma as accused number 2, also bribed the accused, and that has been common knowledge for a long time. Sheikh's appeal didn't help him either since he was sentenced to 15 years in jail. But accused number 1 and Arthur Fraser did help their pal spend just a short while in prison before granting him a medical parole. This long-awaited trial, however, should be an open and shut case. Billy Downer is well prepared. The biggest news item of the week also goes back to Friday when several Gupta lieutenants were arrested, and they include the man who Zuma insisted should head up our railway systems at Transnet. At last, some of the big high-profile fish we have been hooked and booked. And although they are out on very substantial bail, the heat has very definitely been turned up for them to be cooked. Former Transnet CEO Sayabonga Goma and Trillions boss Eric Wood appeared in the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in Palm Ridge on Friday with 3 other executives. They are facing a $93 million double payment charge flowing from the parastatals deal for locomotives. The arrest of these characters on charges of fraud, money laundering and racketeering is another stick to hit the Guptas with. These people were appointed to help the Guptas to loot. When Zuma denied this at the Commission into State Capture, Judge Zondo said he was talking nonsense. It's all there in Judge Zondo's report, so why did the NPA take so long to act? But there is more, much more. Now that arrests have been made, people like Malusi Jigoba, another Gupta puppet, who suddenly found himself elevated into the cabinet by Zuma, must also surely be close to arrest. He was responsible for the much of the looting and the siphoning of state money to the Guptas, and there must be severe consequences if, when, he is found guilty. One of the reasons that these arrests have taken so long is that the NPA was hollowed out during accused number 1's tenure as president, when he filled the NPA with feeble cadres. As if to prove this point, this past weekend a long-standing member of the NPA was caught during a sting operation taking a 30,000-00 bribe. Chaos reigns at ANC provincial election rallies, and this past weekend Ekurhuleni, Benoni, Boksburg and Springs, 2U, was like a war zone. Police and the riot squad had to be called in to calm everyone down. If this is what is happening in local provincial elections, what is the ANC in for at the year-end leadership rally when tensions runs even higher, so high for example that on Tuesday in eThekwini, Durban, 2U, councillor was arrested on murder charges. It is alleged that he ordered hitmen to take out his colleague because he wanted his position on the council, which he got. It does look as if Cyril will be a shoo-in for another term as leader of the party, even though his term has not been what he promised or what we had hoped for. Cyril reads the press, and he must surely be aware how negatively his term has been reviewed. This weekend, the editor of the Sunday Times pulled no punches in criticizing a weak leader too scared of his own shadow. We have seen none of the bravado we were promised when he so narrowly won at Nosrec, and until, as Moeletsi Mbeki said a week or so ago, has simply been a cheerleader for the party. Load shedding is now just a common, daily occurrence, with even Eskom effectively throwing in the towel and giving you a timetable to work from. We in the Cape Town region are spared quite a bit of these outages, which so badly affect everyone in the rest of the country. In Johannesburg and elsewhere it is freezing, and there has been lots of rain, and there is no power to even try to stay warm. One region of the country where rain has been conspicuously absent is the Eastern Cape, where in Kebra, Port Elizabeth, 2U, they have only about 2 to 3 weeks of water left in their dams. That is really very worrying. A great deal of Eskom's troubles is blatant criminality. On Sunday it was discovered at Eskom's Metla power station had been cut. And this was discovered on Sunday. According to Eskom officials, there was no attempt to disguise the damage. This is the fourth incident of suspected sabotage in the past 2 weeks. It is as simple as snapping wires, and Rico's cartoon in Business Maverick shows exactly what happens. It's an experience to spend even a little time in a state hospital. If you are sick, don't forget to bring your own sheets because it's almost guaranteed that the hospital's laundry has been stolen. One of the biggest hospitals in Africa, the Baragwanath Hospital, now called the Chris Hani, has cancelled operations due to the lack of usable laundry. William Saunderson Meyer's article in The Citizen on the weekend, then reposted in Politics Web, talks about the number of medical doctors leaving this country. He opines that the middle class are coping with it, but wonders for how long. But there is some good news here, too. The rand is strengthening and our stock exchange is performing well. Busi Mavuso, CEO of Business Leadership SA, has just returned from a mentorship program in the United States. She advises that South Africa is still seen as the strongest economy in Africa and that we are the most natural investment destination for investments. One of the most important reasons she gave for her view was that SA's financial system is trusted to look after foreign investor exposures. Then, for the first time since I can't remember when, our employment figures went up and not down. Every time I read about Iqbal's survey, I am not surprised at what I learn. This week, 2 cabinet ministers, no less, called his newspapers fake news factories that turns out stories that undermine at every turn. As the circulation of his newspapers drops dramatically, they lay off more and more staff, and the papers are hardly even a shadow of their former selves. Who even wants to look at the front page of the Cape Times or Argus anymore? Read this Shapiro cartoon carefully from the Daily Maverick early this week to understand the situation. My noteworthy coffee catch-up this week was actually a lunch with Johan Mike Stellenbosch Pal, who lives just near us in Somerset West. He has known Pamela Just for a very long time and thought I would enjoy meeting this world-renowned writer who won prizes with her.
Okay, from now on, from here on in, the where are we? Okay, from now on, here on in, the news essentially is just sort of local, personal, sports, etc. So that was the that was the news on June the 1st, 2022. Ms. Parker, are you learning something? Are you going to show? I'm showing you very, very, very emphatically that this man, Patrick Thacker, that you are buddies with, that you love because he's your uncle, you love because he's dying, or whatever reason, he hates you. He's a racist. And with that said, I am going to bring on the second news. Just give me one moment to figure it out. Okie dokie. I am lined up, I do believe. And let me just bring it all in for you. Make sure that you can see it. Okay. I'm going to start to see if it, because this is kind of voice reading of from the browser.
Hello from Gerald. Inbox. Gerald Potash. Gerald Potash1@gmail.com via gmail.mcsv.net.
Yeah, that's
June 29th, 2022, 7:03 p.m. To me. Hello again. In my absence, the Zondo Commission finally came to its completion, and the final sections of what took 4 years and cost us our 1 billion were handed to the president. The conclusions are not pretty, and Cyril is badly tainted as a was, for sitting by and doing nothing for years and years, and even for lying well, for being less than truthful in certain answers given during his appearances at the commission. What is abundantly clear from the judge's report is that Cyril sat at the elbow of Jay-Z in ANC meetings where state capture was blatantly taking place, but said and did nothing. Mondli Makanya, in City Press, calls him an enabler. Then Ray Solomon writes a damning critique in an opinion piece for IOL earlier this week on Cyril. Click on this link to read it and let me know if you think Ramaphosa should also be jailed.
Bear with me.
C-10-C-3-857F-4D-B1F3-349B8025E82F. But Jacob Zuma is directly and throughout the nearly 5,500 pages of the report, now public, shown to be the perfect kleptomaniac who ran the country at the behest of the Guptas, to the massively detrimental cost of all South Africans, mostly, of course, to the expense of the poor. Then Judge Zondo also targets some very high-up big shots, like Dudu Maini of SA, Lodi Motsoning of the SABC, spy boss Arthur Fraser, ex-cabinet minister, Faith Mutambai, and cadres like Ace Magashule and Duduze Nzuma, among very many others, for serious interrogation by the NPA. Their spoils from the party that was such a jolt must be repaid, plus long jail sentences. All the named suspects, and there are literally hundreds, are cadres very close to the ANC, mostly close to accused number one himself, which all goes to confirm what many of us have said for years and years, that this ANC is corrupt to its core. The question is, what now? Will we see arrests? Or will things just slowly meander along, as before? Paul Hoffman makes the point that state capture is real, it is toxic, and it must end. Ramaphosa has said nothing. He has said he will say nothing for 4 months. That's probably how long it would take me to read the almost 5,500 pages too, but I am not expecting much of a response. The best response that many of us can hope for is that this criminal clique that masquerades as a political party gets soundly beaten in the next election, and that these crooks get their comeuppance, if not before that then soon thereafter. But I am not holding my breath. So many big shots are shown to be thieves and liars that surely even the weakened NPA has enough evidence to see that the tainted cabinet ministers and their cronies get locked up and the key to the jail gets thrown away. The amount our fiscus lost to the Guptas and other illegally benefiting cadres is actually calculated at our 57, 344, 912, 379.34c. This is Zapiro's take from the Daily Maverick on the Zondo Commission's targeting of the ANC. Don't think that accused no one is doing nothing about this report. Surprise! He is going to the JSC, Judicial Services Commission, to have Zondo declared rogue and biased against him. He believes, or says that he believes, that there is a conspiracy against him and that the judge hates him. Zuma has lots of our money. While Arthur Fraser was in charge of the SSA, Secret Security Agency, Zuma was getting our 4-5 million a month in cash from then Minister of Security, David Malobo, the minister who was caught at a brothel, which he frequented regularly until the press published photos and asked questions. And the money that he gave to Zuma in cash was income over and above the salary and perks that Jay-Z received as president of this country. So accused number 1 has lots of money to waste, and this move of his to appeal that Zondo is biased against him is not unexpected. Oh, David Malobo still sits in Ramaphosa's cabinet. You already know that all that this will achieve is more waste of time, and so Zuma's Stalingrad tactic just goes on and on, even though it has no prospect of success at all. In the meantime, Ramaphosa has also said nothing about the $4 million of foreign currency stolen from his farm that was hidden in his lounge furniture. There are all sorts of rumors floating around, some suggesting that these funds were to be used at the party elective conference at the end of this year to bribe ANC cadres to keep Cyril in the presidency. Why no word, Mr. President, even after Arthur Fraser spilled the beans of the theft that took place 16 months ago? And why no word then? As for Fraser, he is really a nasty piece of work. Herman Mashaba, leader of the Action SA political party, had threatened Shamila Batohi that unless she, the NPA, laid charges within the next few days, Mashaba will be bringing a private prosecution against Fraser, based entirely on the evidence as laid out in the Zondo Commission. But then Cope, Mosiua Lakota's party, beat him to it and laid criminal charges against Fraser at a Pretoria police station. This is Brandon's take on the matter from Business Day. One big story this week has been the death of 21 teenagers in a pub tavern in East London on Sunday night. This heartbreaking story has taken a whole week to fully unfold and for all to understand exactly what happened. Needless to say, it has a great deal to do with our chronic lack of policing. Who serves liquor to 13-year-olds? Why wasn't the pub closed down ages ago when there were multiple complaints about liquor being served illegally to underage children? And where did the original story that they died in a stampede come from? Our municipalities are in financial ruin. Only 16% of the more than 250 municipalities have a clean audit. The incompetence of the ANC needs no more illustration than this. Many of the municipal workers are extremely well paid, and this simply adds to the picture of ANC management. It is virtually non-existent and is self-serving. It is noteworthy that most of the proper functioning municipalities are Western Cape based and are run by the DA. What a very noticeable difference. We are experiencing power outages like never before. The country yesterday moved to stage 6 only for the second time ever. Pravin Gordhan claimed on Tuesday evening that the illegal strike that so contributed to our problems had been resolved. The trade unions disagreed. The unions have used despicable and highly dangerous tactics to keep willing workers away. Petrol bombs to their homes, motor cars set alight, and threatening phone calls have all been employed. And you say we are not a gangster state? This strike has severely curtailed the urgently required repairs that are needed for our very old power stations to keep our lights on and our burglar alarms working. These outages are horrible and they affect everyone. Apart from that, try getting into the city when the traffic lights aren't working. The public protector, suspended by Ramaphosa, you see he doesn't do absolutely nothing, has been ordered to pay a former employee a 1.5 million after that employee was unfairly dismissed for writing to Parliament requesting an investigation into her ability. He had also suggested that her financial management required investigation. Anyway, he now has his job and satisfaction back, and he has been paid for the time he was dismissed and unable to work. We are expecting another serious fuel price hike next week, and interest rates are set to rise again too. It is an extremely difficult time for consumers as prices rise almost from day to day, even for the most basic food items like bread and cooking oil. Have you noticed that there is never a shortage of news here in SA? No one, it seems, talks news or politics in Sydney, or if they do, I didn't hear any of it during my short stay. My plans in Oz were badly constrained by my getting COVID, and very many of the arrangements I had made to see friends and recipients of this newsletter had to be cancelled because of my illness and my of this newsletter had to be cancelled because of my illness and my fear of spreading it. But I am back and happy to have been able to get close to my Australian family again. Some observations about Oz. Homes are terribly expensive. I question prices, and what would cost a 3.5 million here would cost, in rands, an equivalent of over a 40 million for a cent.
Okay, well, that was it for June. End of June. Excuse me. That was it for June the 29th. Now we're going to go to the next one, which is July the 6th. So let me bring that one in. And are we slowly getting a little bit more educated as to how South Africa works, how it runs, and how everybody has a right to their say on what happens politically and economically, and because South Africa is a free country, and it's a very, very badly run country, but because it's free, we have a right to talk about it. Now, Mrs. Parker and Grampy Lobster need to know this, and this is the reason for these for this particular stream. I'm gonna get both Ms. Parker and Patrick Thacker a little bit up to speed, and then I'm going to show you what a fucking asshole and a racist and the psychopath maybe I won't show you today, but the racist part I'll show you today. The anti-Semitic part I'll show you again when I show you what a psychopath is. But in the meantime, what I need to do is grab. Oops, that's not it. There we go. I'm gonna grab the right maybe it's that one there. Oh no, that's the current one. So let's go to the next one. Sorry. Have some music, for God, because I'm kind of not very technical, as you can tell. All right, I think we've achieved the next level, and we are on to July the 6th. News from South Africa on July the 6th, especially for Ms. Parker, and not so much for Patrick Thacker, because he's not going to get anything out of it because he's too thick. And he's a racist. And I'm going to show you. But let's get this guy on the road here.
More. Hello from Gerald. Inbox. Gerald Potash. Gerald Potash via gmail.mcsv.net. July 6, 2022, 8:21 p.m. To me. Hello again. Cyril is under attack. People like Cheryl Carolus, Barney Bombathy and Terence Corrigan have had serious goes at him this week. Carolus, a stalwart of the struggle who has perfect party credentials, wants Cyril to talk. Talk about the robbery at his farm, talk about the Eskom strike, talk about the Zondo report. But talk. Barney Bombathy, a columnist in the Sunday Times, also has a full go at Cyril for sitting on the fence and flitting around, having his photo taken at the G7 and BRICS meetings and being anywhere while smiling for the camera instead of being at home and facing the music. Barney wants to know why these meetings are more important than what is going on here with Eskom. And Corrigan writes that there are two serious crimes that Ramaphosa is part of: ANC pillaging and ANC cadre deployment. Will Ramaphosa own up to his direct part in these two heinous crimes? Corrigan wants to know. Then, to add to Ramaphosa's troubles this week, the Johannesburg High Court fingered him directly in the Marikana mine massacre. There, in 2012, 34 miners were shot dead in cold blood by the police after Ramaphosa, then a director of the Lonmin mine, called the police to settle matters of the illegal strike. This ruling opens a door for the 349 surviving miners to claim compensation directly from Ramaphosa. Then the question of leadership comes into focus, and if not Ramaphosa, who then? The problem is that realistically there is nobody in the ANC with clean hands able to run the country. I am getting tired of writing about our electricity woes. We are back to outages of over 2 hours up to 3 times a day. Here in the Cape Town metropole we are spared some of the outages thanks to our Steenbros hydro pump station, and stage 6 has been almost totally averted here so far, but only for us. Some parts of the country are out for 8 hours a day every day. To make things even worse, this month the cost of our electricity went up again, so not only is the economy, especially small businesses, taking severe strain, but so is the population. Unsurprisingly, depression is becoming a common mental problem. Instead of getting the ringleaders of the recent strike arrested for breaking the law, the strike was illegal, the government offered to start talking about a 7% wage package increase if the workers would come back to work. On Tuesday the unions signed a new wage agreement which Eskom can't afford, but workers are now back at work. The irony is that these gangsters in the unions were already very well paid. As you can imagine, the sale of generators and inverters has gone through the roof. We have an inverter here at home, and at least the Wi-Fi, a bedside lamp and the TV remain operational even when our lights are off. Chris Yelland, the energy expert, warns that these outages could be with us for years, not months. Berger calls these outages an economic disaster, which it is. Today in Business Day, Peter Bruce tells us that Eskom is going to die because it is simply too old, and because of that we have become uninvestable. Bruce pleads for renewable energy as soon as possible, but, he writes, the government wants to be at the center of the economy and privatization does not suit them. It is wrong to blame Andre de Ruyter for this mess. Eskom is in unfixable shambles. The only bit of light coming from these outages is the humor that gets shared on WhatsApp, like this classic. It was not surprising to read in the South African newsletter how many locals are leaving the country on a one-way ticket. Bruce Whitfield interviewed James Formby, CEO of Rand Merchant Bank, last week, and the figure given was about 70 people a day every day. But Formby believes that figure could be much higher, especially now that load shedding has again become so very regular. What is really concerning is who is leaving, all races, but mostly the educated class and those qualified, suggests Formby. Add to this figure then that almost 40% of our doctors have said they will leave the country if the government brings in NHI as promised. But I can see that happening. SA just simply does not have the money for it, and quite apart from that, the incompetence in current national health facilities is just so conspicuous that it simply won't work here at all. The good news is that we are almost certain to have another government before this could be made to happen by the incumbent ANC. Last week I mentioned David Malobo, then Men of State Security, he with a love for massage parlors/brothels, having given Jacob Zuma large bundles of cash monthly. Well, COPE, the political party, has laid charges of money laundering and corruption against him. They also laid similar charges against Arthur Fraser a week ago. Both these characters have had so much of their nefarious deeds exposed by the Zondo Commission that it is incomprehensible that they are still in government and not in jail. Oh, how weak our national prosecutors are. Zuma's attacks on Zondo and his appeals from court to court against Billy Downer and Raymond Zondo are nothing but noise, writes legal reporter Karen Mon. Who can disagree with this top journalist? I firmly hope and believe Zuma will be back in jail next month. All these goings-on are just so very typical of the errant ANC, and this cartoon from the Daily Friend hits the nail on the head. This week we had yet another steep petrol price increase. Our fuel price has gone up 50% in a year and we are all hurting. Some good news is that the NPA is making headway in recovering stolen loot from the Guptas. On Friday, an application was brought to the courts for the Optimum mine, which supplies so much coal to Eskom power stations, to be forfeited to the state. The mine is part of Tegeta, the Gupta-controlled company, and is worth approximately $3.4 billion, which the state wants back. More good news is that the court has ordered Brian Molefe to repay Eskom's pension fund the $10 million that he awarded himself irregularly while he was CEO of Eskom. Coffee catch-ups are my thing to prevent Alzheimer's, quite apart from the fact that I enjoy lots of coffee. Seriously, I recently tuned into a TED Talks lecture where regular contacts with different people is said to be the most effective way of staving off this disease. Anyway, Brian, who came through to Somerset West for a catch-up, and I go back a very long way to my trading days. During our chat on Tuesday we spoke about the possibility of the Western Cape seceding from the rest of the country. This is often in the news these days, and for all the obvious reasons. As we sat chatting, he advised me of our province's demographics and I just didn't believe him. He claimed whites are only 11%.
So this is July the 6th. We've got 2 to go. And then I'm going to show you what a fucking idiot this Patrick Thacker is for reacting the way he did to something absolutely benign and stupid. Okay, so we're going to go now look for the next one. I can't remember what the next one is. Alright, so this is July 6th. The next one's going to be July the 20th. Okay. Give me one moment. Back to the music. Alright, I think we've got something happening here. I just got to make an adjustment. Please stand by. Please stand by while I make an adjustment. Okay. right, so now we've got you've got what we call July. Oh, I better change the date because this is now July the 20th. July the 20th. It's 2022. So let's just make that stick like that. And I think I need to just center it a little bit like that. Excellent. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to work.
More. Hello from Gerald. Inbox. Gerald Potash. Gerald Potash via gmail.mcsv.net. July 20th, 2022, 8:07 p.m., 12 days ago. To me. Hello again. Making all the news this past weekend were the president and some of his ministers who visited an Eskom power plant. There he delivered the good news that the cabinet is very seriously considering another national power utility to assist in getting regular electricity to all. So Eskom will have competition. Eskom too. But there is one small matter that the president has not taken into account, and that is that SOE, state-owned enterprises, don't work properly when run by the ANC. This announcement has just given more cadres time to start rubbing their hands in delight at the prospect of getting rich from yet another government trough at which to feed. This is Rico's take on the ANC's cadre situation from Business Maverick. Columnist Hilary Joff in Business Day makes the point that Energy Minister Guido Mantashe has lots of plans for the government to control the second utility, but control is the problem. The government should stand back, she writes, and allow private enterprise to go ahead with whatever works, whether it is coal or nuclear or renewable energy. Most journalists are querying whether this announcement by Cyril is not just a very bad joke. What is not a joke is that Moeletsi Mbeki, political analyst and brother of Thabo, who turned 80 last week, has delivered a very depressing State of the Nation address to MoneyWeb. Here he tells it like it is, and that is that this country has gone into a very, very steep decline, all brought on by the ineptitude of the ANC. This is a quote. 20 years ago, South Africa was the largest economy in Africa by far. It had the most developed and diversified manufacturing sector, it had the largest railway network on the continent and one of the largest in the world, it was the largest producer of electricity in Africa, it had the largest port in Africa, Durban. But his considered views are all in this article that I urge you to read by clicking on this link. https://www.moneyweb.co.za/moneyweb-opinion/south-africa-is/money-web-opinion/south-africa-is-another-crossroads/j. Professor Anton van Niekerk, in his op-ed in Die Burger this week, wonders why so many South Africans are staying put. He quotes William Sondersenmeyer's article in The Citizen. Those who leave are the squeezed middle. You stay in SA, says Sondersenmeyer, if you are very rich or very poor. If you are rich, and earn more than a 1 million P/A, you can afford to buy everything you need and so you stay. If you are poor, then you can't go anywhere. The squeezed middle are those who earn, are qualified, pay taxes, and can see what is happening. They leave. In 2019, 46,294 doctors were practicing in SA. Today there are 19,772. Are we a failed state, asks Prof. van Niekerk. It actually makes less and less difference because SA is a place where fewer and fewer people work. You decide. Making news here every day this week is the matter of the public protector not being fit for office, which is before a parliamentary committee investigating whether to impeach her. The stories coming from whistleblowers are truly embarrassing. She is a liar, incompetent, and has a penchant for litigation where she regularly loses because her legal knowledge is so poor. Thankfully, she has already been suspended by Cyril, but this is what Mkhwebane is trying to reverse. What she has cost us taxpayers with her lifestyle, now becoming public, is another nail in her proverbial coffin. Oh, she is fighting, but hopefully her legal eagles will be hit down by the strong parliamentary committee. This is, at last, a case of an incompetent cadre being exposed. The Deputy Public Protector has threatened to subpoena the President to answer questions relating to the millions of dollars stolen from his farm. He has missed the date to answer 31 questions and he is now under serious pressure. Here we have a story brewing, watch this space. The Communist Party, an alliance partner with the ANC in government, has just held its elections, and one of the first statements by the new leader, Solly Mapela, was that his ANC comrades must immediately sever all relations with Israel. He calls for an immediate closure of the SA embassy there. The communists are also vociferously anti-America and called on the ANC to take a stand against NATO. That was seemingly much more important than to tell his followers, in his first address as party leader, how he is going to help feed the poor in our country. This time of
Okay, pay attention, everybody. This is important to know for cultural reasons. Nothing to do with you, Ms. Parker, or you, Patrick Thacker, but it's just an extra paragraph that I didn't realize. But I'm very glad that it is inserted in here. Listen up.
time of the year is initiation time for very many young men of the Eastern Cape and other mostly rural parts of the country. The most important ritual in the initiation is that of circumcision. Every year we read about young men dying painful deaths because certain, illegal, initiation schools are using primitive methods to circumcise. Alan Wildman has written a letter to the editor of Business Day pointing out that for many years now Israel has offered an inexpensive gadget, prepex, to the SA government to stop the deaths which are almost completely unnecessary. This product would make the whole process simpler and so much safer, but the government, according to Wildman, would rather let those painful deaths continue than buy from Israel. Some bad news is that Sasol, our major fuel supplier, has called a force majeure simply because insufficient crude has been delivered into the country as a result of the Ukrainian war. Apparently crude arrived in Durban at the weekend, but it is going to take at least 10 days to get everything up and running again. Even though Sasol has issued a statement indicating that the main problem will be with jet fuel, my suggestion is keep your car tank full. Now for a welcome change, some very good news stories. The legal papers are ready and the two Gupta brothers held in custody in Dubai will be extradited to stand trial in SA, says the NPA. Better news even than that is that at last a top ANC cadre has been slapped with a really decent sentence by our courts. Hlodi Motsoeneng, the erstwhile head of the SABC, has had his application to overturn a sentence to pay back R11.5 million that he received from the national broadcaster unlawfully dismissed. He has 7 days to pay back the money plus interest at 15.5% from the date of the original sentence. 3. South Africa is getting one of the world's biggest solar and battery power plants. This is an important milestone in the procurement of renewable energy and proves that the sector can be relied upon to deliver much-needed electricity capacity to the grid, added Jan Fourie, Scatec's general manager for sub-Saharan Africa. This will almost certainly help giving additional capacity that can ease some of strain on power utility Eskom and the country's unreliable power system. 4. Lalila Mswane was crowned Miss Supranational last Friday night in Poland. This is the first time a black contestant or a South African has won the title. This extremely well-educated lady with qualifications in education and law was, just a few months ago, harshly criticized by the ANC and BDS, of course, for standing her ground and competing in the Miss World competition in Israel. There she finished second runner-up. Then Iqbal Survey, the big shot boss of the IOL group that includes the rubbish that pretend to be proper newspapers like Cape Times and Argus, has received yet another snot clap. After he went ballistic about the banking cabal that had ganged up against his company Sekonjalo and closed its accounts with them, Standard Bank has now done the same. As part of the client review process, Standard Bank also provided the Sekonjalo Group with numerous opportunities to respond to various concerns that had been identified, said a spokesman of the bank. Oh, he will oppose this move and take them to court, as he has done previously, but those Stalingrad tactics are ceasing to work. You know how much I enjoy a gathering. My favorite is sitting at a table in a vibey coffee shop. That has become my usual choice for a catch-up with pals. I didn't realize Rico knew me, but he penned this cartoon on Monday in Business Day, obviously with me very much in mind. Apart from my usual catch-ups this week, twice I was taken to lunch. Henry had the usual suspects gather in Steenberg, and of course Dennis, that character of note, was there, so were Paul and Robin, and even Kenny, who is becoming a regular, joined the usual suspects for a wonderful gathering. Coincidentally on Friday at the same restaurant chain, but here in Somerset West, Philip, originally from KZN but now in Constantia, brought some of his pals for lunch. Another Henry, the key Nomads golfer I had known from before, but it was lovely meeting Doug from Hout Bay and Peter from Hermanus for the first time. How lucky can a fellow get to get two such offers in one?
All right, so there we have July 27th. No, there we have July 20th. Now, July 27th, the very last one, is coming up. And then there will be the big question for you guys who are watching and having lots of fun out there, I'm sure. But in order for me to do this, I have to kind of know. Oh, I am. Okay, so here we have July the, what did I say, 27th. Okay, so that's just a few days ago. Let me get this ready. July 27. There we go. Okay, so let's just try starting it.
More. Hello from Gerald. Inbox. Gerald Potash. Gerald Potash via gmail.mcsv.net. July 27, 2022, 7:46 p.m., 5 days ago. To me. Hello again. Could it be that Cyril's reign is coming to an end as head of the ANC and as president of this country? His actions confirm what almost every political commentator has speculated. He is a wuss. He is nothing more than a hollow wimp who promises but does nothing. He promised to fix our electricity, he promised a new social compact and to create jobs, he promised to fix education and to fix crime, he promised to unite the party. He has done none of these, and Thabo Mbeki tore into him during his speech at Jesse Duarte's memorial service on Thursday night, where the hall was filled to capacity with ANC loyalists paying tribute, the ultimate grouch. Mbeki warned that another explosion of looting and riots like those in Durban last year are not unlikely, and the government has done simply nothing. Nothing. Tony Leon, in his op-ed in Business Day this week while having a serious go at the ANC leadership, quotes Moeletsi Mbeki saying that they, the leadership of the ANC, are like a group of children playing with a hand grenade. One day one of them will work out how to pull out the pin and everyone will be killed. At the closing ceremony of the KZN ANC Elective Congress on Sunday evening, almost unexpectedly Ramaphosa showed up to close the provincial congress. The rumor circulating all that day was that he would not show since the entire KZN leadership, his support faction there, had been voted out of office. As Cyril walked into the closing session, after 7 p.m., the crowd was singing Wenzani Yuzuma, What Has Zuma Done, and many even booed him. KZN is the strongest ANC province and they are firmly anti-Ramaphosa, and now they have a new steering committee loyal to Zuma. The Zuma, RET, faction now call themselves the Taliban. Ek esi ma nix. Ma Rico se did so in Business Maverick. One of the first statements to come from that Taliban faction after their win was that they want to change the ANC step-aside rule for accused cadres. They believe it should only be implemented once the cadre has been found guilty of any crime in court. Cyril was also the main news item on Friday when he conceded to the acting public protector, Kolika, as she was about to issue a subpoena for him to answer 31 questions about the millions of dollars stolen from the furniture in his farmhouse. This final warning to answer came after he had been granted a 4-week extension of the original 2-week deadline granted by her. An explanation obviously became necessary after Arthur Fraser's bombshell, which he had waited 2 years to drop. Why the long wait? After missing the original date to answer the PP's questions because he was too busy, and then asking for another extension, Cyril eventually gave in, saying it was always his intention to reply to her request. Surely anyone can see that Cyril's delaying tactics are no more than Stalingrading, and his answers may well turn into a two-edged sword that will confirm that he did indeed hide information that by law had to be reported to the police. Cyril's answers will not be made public. Not now anyway. This story has legs, watch this space. I am extremely irritated by the fact that the ANC gets too much publicity. Granted, a lot of it is negative, but if you are a regular TV watcher in our country, there are probably many who would not even be able to answer a simple question: name one political party other than the ANC. This past weekend we got non-stop news crammed down our throats of what was happening at the ANC conference in Durban. Last week it was the same, but in Mpumalanga. Worse than boring, it is outrageous that only the ANC party gets this kind of publicity. ANC political officials are continuously interviewed, and on Saturday Paul Moshatile, ANC big shot, told all watching TV that there is no other choice than the ANC in the upcoming general election. The uneducated, and here there are too many, hear only one side of the story. Many of us react by just tuning into another channel, but that doesn't make the bias okay. The big question is, if the ANC does lose at the general election in 2024, will they go? Remember how Thabo Mbeki supported Robert Mugabe, who badly lost the 2000 referendum in Zimbabwe, so that Mugabe could stay in office? Could the same not happen here? For 14 years SA has been suffering electricity outages. On Monday night Cyril addressed the nation about our energy crisis. The droning, boring voice was the same as during his family chats while COVID raged. He has magnanimously scrapped the requirement for the licensing of private energy projects and advised that we are going to be buying energy from our neighbor states. It took 14 years of power outages for the government to realize that our neighboring states have an oversupply of electricity. Mark Swilling, a prof at Stellenbosch University, believes that lifting the ban on standalone electricity generation projects will add enormously to the grid, with the benefit that it will cost the state nothing. The 83 projects in the pipeline should see SA end blackouts. Now wouldn't that be lovely? However, a warning. Paul Hoffman writes in Daily Maverick yesterday that all Cyril's plans mean nothing unless it urgently addresses the corruption at the SOE. The NEC of the ANC resolved in August 2020 to instruct Cabinet, as a matter of urgency, to establish a new, independent, standalone, specialized entity to deal with corruption without fear, favor or prejudice. There has been no sign of urgent activity in the nearly 2 years that have elapsed since the resolution was passed. John Hlope, the Justice President of the Western Cape Division, tried to influence two constitutional court judges to rule in favor of Jacob Zuma in 2008 when Zuma wanted 93,000 pages of evidence against him in the arms deal case scrapped. This action by our judge president was reported to the Judicial Services Commission, JSC, and since then this matter has been back and forth from one court to another in the most typical of Stalingrading tactics you have ever seen. Well, this week, after appeal, the JSC told Cyril that he can and must suspend Chief Justice Hlope from office and, pending only a mandate from Parliament, that he be impeached. At last, accountability. There is a terrible water shortage in Beira, PE2U, and ANC big shots, including the Cabinet Minister of Water Affairs, were there to accept the praise for the news that 3 boreholes had been successfully completed and that some water was flowing again. The only problem was that notwithstanding this long-lasting disaster being temporarily terminated by these boreholes, it had nothing to do with the ANC minister or the mayor, ANC, or the councillor, also ANC, who were all standing and posing for photos while taking credit. The boreholes were done by that wonderful welfare organization, Gift of the Givers, led by Dr. Imtiaz Sulaiman. The work that they successfully complete is really miraculous, and their projects frequently stretch to all over the world where Africans are in trouble. The good doctor believes that SA is the best place in the world to live. This week, the detained Gupta brothers failed in their bid to get bail where they are being held in Dubai, and the NPA is positive that they will be extradited to SA. Don't hold your breath though, this process could take a long time, even years. The PIC, which manages the Government Employees Pension Fund, has sold its entire holding of Iqbal Surveyors Fishing Company shares. Sekunjalo owns the majority of this listed company, and the PIC has got rid of 51 million shares in Premier Fishing. The shares have been bought by a company controlled by Survey, 3 Law Capital. Who else would buy them? A former editor of the Star newspaper, sister newspaper to the Cape Times and Argus and now part of Surveyors Empire, Peter Sullivan, wrote a letter to Business Day this week calling out how Surveyors' years at the helm of the IOL newspaper group lacked ethics and has seen the circulation of that once proud newspaper shrink from 250,000 a day to 25,000. None of the 21 editors in Surveyors Group stood up to him when his paper published the false story of the 10 decuplets birth in SA. Sullivan ends his letter by stating that he is ashamed of his former company editor's complicity. Time magazine has just nominated Franschhoek alongside some of the most celebrated tourist destinations on the planet as a place to visit. Tourism does not get a better boost than this. A page copied from the Times that Tom sent me from London about our rugby is worrying. Stuart Barnes, ex-England fly half and rugby commentator for Sky Sports, analyses our play and doesn't give us or any Southern Hemisphere sides much chance of winning the World Cup crown next year in France. It is an interesting article that I can share. A very quiet sports weekend was transformed into a serious party when our ladies soccer team returned on Tuesday after winning the Africa Cup of Nations, and now Banyana are the champions of Africa. SA is seriously short of good news, and the media went mad with this result. Of course, even Cyril had picture taken with the team and lauded them with all the platitudes we would expect him from him. Zapiro was up to it too with this cartoon yesterday in Daily Maverick. The cricket was rained out in Leeds, and so the ODI series was tied 1-1. Then late last night England beat the Proteas in the first of the...
Okay.